Alright everybody, this is a quick little demo of how you can get the monster here to look at the player as he walks around rather than just standing there. And we're going to start by just creating an initial script. So let me pause this, or turn it off rather. I already started a little bit, so you're going to see my cheat sheet, but we're going to go through it line by line. So I create a look at player script. Now this is JavaScript, and caveat here, asterisk, full disclosure, I'm not the best programmer in the world, but this logic should hold up, and I get most of my stuff from the Unity docs and the forums if I don't already have an idea of how to do it. So you can ignore my stuff at the bottom here. We're going to write it from scratch here at the top. We're going to need two variables. We're going to get the player object, that's a game object, and then we're going to get the turn speed. That's how fast the monster will turn. Now you should be able to drop this on any monster, and it should just work regardless. It doesn't have to be the giant worm. So this is the player object. Let's comment that out. Player object, or object which the character will look at. And then down here, this is the speed at which the turn will occur. 1 equals 1 unit per second. So now in the start function, we're going to say if player object doesn't exist, then we're going to assign that. We're going to just search for player controller. That's what I'm calling it. I'm using the first person controller script that comes with the standard assets. Let's take a moment to check how to get that. In the assets, say import package characters. I've already imported them, but you'll get a whole list there. And it's under standard assets, characters, first person controller, prefabs, FPS controller. I've renamed that to player controller, but everything else is exactly the same if you want to do it in your own project. So if that's not already assigned, which we can assign that in the inspector, then it will search for it. Now we're going to create our update loop. And in this we want to do two things. Now the first line, go through it, it's a target rotation. The quaternions, I don't know if I'm even pronouncing that right. It's stuff I don't understand, but you know, the forums and the documents help out a lot. Look rotation, this is just a built-in function that gets the rotation between two objects, in this case the player object's transform position and this object's transform position. And then, so let's comment that. This is going to be get rotation between two objects. And then the next line is going to be transform rotation and then quaternion dot slurp. So we're going to do our transform rotation, that's the rotation of the object that the script is on, to the target rotation, which is the rotation that it would be required to be at to be looking at the player object. And we're going to do that over time.delta time times the turn speed. Let me delete my cheat sheet, and turn towards player controller player object over time. And that should be it. Now there's going to be one issue which we'll talk about in just a minute. Let's see what this does. Alright, so as you can see, he's kind of looking at me, but if I get real close, whoa, get away from me, he leans back. What is that? That's so weird. I don't know if there's a better way of doing this, but this is the way I like to do it. Player position fixed is going to be player object vector 3 player object transform dot position dot x, then transform dot position dot y, and then player object transform dot position dot z. And if you can figure out where I'm going with it, creates a vector with the x and z of the target, but the y of the source character, which means that he won't lean back. He'll always be looking forward in height rather than left than the players. And that didn't work. So I guess I will cut that part out of the video. Won't I? So he's leaning back, and one thing we notice about the giant worm here is at this point, he will when you go through it, but at this point he doesn't have a rigid body on him. So we're going to add that right now. We're going to go to our, where is it? Physics rigid body. Never mind. One thing you'll notice is that the worm doesn't have a rigid body yet, so we're going to add that, and we're going to do a couple things. First, this doesn't change, he doesn't move with gravity, so we're going to use his kinematic. Otherwise he'll fall through, because if you notice his little tail is underneath. Since he doesn't actually move, we're not doing anything with gravity and physics like that, we're just going to say is kinematic. And the other thing we'll do is press play again. Now he turns back. Unless we say constrain the rotation. Oops. I believe. So we're going to do a quick print out here. You can use debug log if you like. I prefer print. I'm not sure why. I just do. We're going to print out the this y is going to be transform.position.y, and we're also going to print out player y, and that's player layer object.transform.position.y. Press play and let's check out what we get. And so there you have this y is at 0, player y is at nearly 1. And that could explain why he leans back, because he's trying to look at 1 rather than 0. So if we change the player position, add this. I see. So I like to keep these lined up. Now we have a player position. A little OCD about this part too. So our player position fixed. We're going to plug that into our player position. Instead of looking at the player position, we're going to look at player position fixed, which will have the same y level as the character. That means he wouldn't have to tilt back in order to look at the player as he gets close. Let's check it out. Sure enough, he's looking around, he follows him. And the reason why we want to go with that slurp is for, and check out the scene view up here, as we walk by, he nicely, slowly turns around rather than flipping around. If we were to walk through him without that, he would just snap around, and that wouldn't be a very pleasing look for players. So we're going to keep him slowly moving around like that. So that's basically the look at script. It doesn't do too much. It basically takes the player object, finds a fixed position where the y is the same as the character doing the looking, gets the target rotation, and then slowly interpolates between current rotation, the target rotation over a set amount of time, and you can speed that up and slow that down however you'd like. That way, if you ever cast a freeze spell or slow spell on the worm, he could turn more slowly, and that could be advantageous to your player. So I hope that helps, and you can find this script attached with the giant worm, and also right here on the website or at infinitypbr.com.